Hi, my name's Toby Mountjoy, and this is The Autism Show. Today, we're going to be hearing the stories from quite a number of parents who had noticed that their child might be developing a little bit differently than they expected. What were the things they noticed, and what made them feel like their child's development was a little bit different? So the experience can be very, very different for parents that have a child with autism in terms of the very early days, in terms of looking at the different development and maybe recognizing that something might not be quite right. Some parents may be not very aware, and it may be other people, like people in school. It might be the first time the child goes to a kindergarten or a play group or to some other kind of learning area where people are very familiar with child development. That may be the first time they're told something might be up and maybe to go seek help. At other times, parents can really have a gut feeling or really notice something's just not quite right.
At kindergarten, the teacher one day came up to me and said, hey, maybe you should check Zia out. I said, what do you mean? So yeah, she's a bit different. Deep down, I actually do realize that she is a little different. And I kept on telling myself that was just terrible too.
I realized when Henry was very young that I think he was about 10 months old, that there was definitely autism there. So when I started to notice the symptoms in Henry, it would just send chills down my spine. We could entertain him with ceiling fans, spinning toys. He was obsessed with things like my husband would watch BBC World and the little
the ticker tape
thing going across the bottom of the screen, and
I like that
and it's just like everything to me just pointed to autism.
喺我之前個家姐咧，嗰個成長階段好似有啲差別咁樣，咁我就開始估計阿仔有呢方面嘅可能發生啦，自閉症呢方面。
About 2 months into his N1, and then the school feedback that he is not really engaged with others. He likes to play alone, and when he is provoked, he tend to act out aggressively. So there were some behavioral issues.
最初頭係老師話俾我聽嘅，佢唔中意同啲同學玩，咁佢就中意攞咗自己嘅玩具之後咧，自己同自己玩。
Perhaps one of the biggest things I would imagine that parents often notice is the child's language development. We know that children with autism are often behind in their language, maybe speak later or don't have words or understand language as much as other typically developing children. Thinking about when your child will first say his first words or start to talk to you is an incredibly exciting thing to think about when you're a parent, and you really anticipate those days from a very, very early time. So when those milestones don't really get reached, so for example, if your child's 2 years old and still not talking, it can provide a parent with a lot of worry or a very obvious milestone that they would maybe perhaps go and seek help and look for some opinions about what is happening.
I would say maybe around 18 months, we first started spotting some language delays. He's not really hitting his language milestones.
But at the time, I wasn't that worried, wasn't that concerned, because the main factor is because he's a premature baby. So I would like to think that he might develop slower than other kids, you see. So at the time, I didn't really give it a lot of thought about it until when he started attending school. That's where we get all the complaints from.
Definitely at 18 months old, that's when I started seeing some regression in Marcus. He started losing the only 3 words that he had acquired earlier.
佢大約當時2歲左右咧，咁我哋發現佢嗰個講嘢嗰方面同埋啲玩嘅玩具比較唔出聲啦。
佢到2歲半先開始有意識咁樣講 ABC。同埋1到10，但係爸爸媽媽咧，佢都係未識嘅。
我諗歲幾已經基本上識得講爸爸媽媽㗎啦。咁但係我哋係點教佢點樣做任何嘢，佢都唔會講一句説話。
講嘢唔叻，同人溝通唔叻，好少説話，咁基本上冇同其他人有互動嘅。
最覺得佢似係自閉症咧，第一就係遲講嘢啦，因為2歲發現咗之後，2歲1個月、2個月、3個月、4個月都係冇噶嘛。
最大嘅問題就言語上嘅遲緩啦，去到2歲都未識講嘢，好單字咯，係阿媽啊咁樣咯。
Another area that parents notice is the child's sort of overall social engagement and also what they are doing in their sort of free time. It's quite common that children with autism may have some unusual interests. Might be lift mechanisms, or maybe, wanting to line things up or do things with toys in maybe a slightly different way than you might expect another child to do so. Parents may notice that their child is not so interested in other children, or even maybe difficult to engage in toys or play or activities that seemingly is quite an easy task, again, with typically developing children who are like super geared into playing with adults, engaging with people around them. And parents often notice this. The word autism comes from the Latin, which means within oneself. And this is one of the defining things that Leo Kanner observed when, the first diagnosis was described, that these children seem to be by themselves and not interested in those around them. To be a parent and have your child not really seem to respond to you or engage with you could be a really heartbreaking experience.
On the playground, when he was crawling, he would just be obsessed with the lines on the playground. And he'd go up and down and up and down in this very crazy sort of way.
I realized that he was playing with toys, I guess appropriately, but also kind of repetitively in a STEM way. I remember he was opening and closing over and over again the cabinets on a play kitchen, and just opening and closing. It was later when I was trying to entertain him in front of in an airport while our flight was delayed, and I spun the top of a plate or a jar or something that spun for him, and he just went. And after that, we had to do that all the time. We could make things spin. And before that, he was interested in fans and other things that he could manipulate that would spin.
He was also very detached from the surroundings. He was not really responding to his name. So major symptoms that I noticed when he was 18 months old.
He was almost 2 when we realised he wasn't talking like other children his age, and he was playing with toys a little bit differently than other kids. He wasn't really interested in other kids. He was only interested in our family, and that was all really.
佢3分鐘熱度一埋位就即刻走㗎啦。係啊，人哋可能坐定定佢就會跑。係啦，人哋可能會飲水，即係正經飲水嘅時候佢就會倒水。係啊，人哋揸住個水樽飲水嘅時候，佢就會攞人哋個蓋嚟掉。佢係連真車轆佢都中意㗎。唔好講話喺馬路上面行啦，屋企樓下停車場，佢經過佢都要望一望、摸一摸、踎低，或者甚至乎佢試過瞓喺地下㗎。
玩玩具咧，尤其是車，好中意玩車，好調轉個車，四輪朝天咁喺度玩得好古怪咁。咁但開始覺得有啲奇怪嘅，咁你佢啲反應，嗌佢唔會睬人嘅喎。
洋洋出世8、9個月，我就覺得佢同其他小朋友唔一樣，因為佢笑得好少啦，又唔多同屋企人互動啦，對自己嘅名咧冇咩反應嘅。
都唔同嗰個玩嘅，咁佢基本上係自己可能上咗個上滑梯上落嚟，跟住走翻上去咁。
同人個交流真係好少嘅，叫佢又唔係好應啊。咁或者帶佢出街咧，佢對其他人真係冇眼神交流。有個表姐大佢1個月嘅，佢哋係零交流嘅。有時哥哥撩佢玩，或者甚至我撩佢玩，佢冇興趣都唔理你。
Another area that parents often notice is emotional regulation issues. They may feel like their child is much more difficult than other children. By the way, when parents are often noticing this, it's usually around age 2. If you ask a lot of my staff who have children that are age 2, I don't think they always report that their children are as little angels. They call it the terrible twos for a good reason. However, parents with children with autism may know, oh, my child seems even more difficult than that. They may have not developed many of the skills that they need to navigate their world. For example, if they haven't learned how to talk, to express their needs or displeasures, they may do other things to get their needs met, like crying or screaming or tantruming because they don't know what else to do. Many of these areas of deficits are replaced by certain ways to get their needs met. And so parents often can have some greater difficulties in managing their children's behavior or thinking that their children are not coping with their daily routines in a way that might be what they expect.
One of the main symptoms was him hitting his head on the wall and on the floor.
佢啲固執行為都好多，譬如佢都係一定要自己撳 lift 啦，你唔可以撳，你撳咗佢，佢就會好掹窒，會喊啦，會尖叫啦，又唔多識表達。需要嘅嘢咧，佢多數都係拖住大人嘅手去做。去叫我哋俾佢，如果我哋唔理佢咧，佢會自己做咗先。好多時候咧，佢都會掠地啦。喺街咧，有時候都會掠得好犀利，可能會持久戰到1個鐘啊、半個鐘咁樣都有㗎。
有陣時，如果佢細個嗰陣時咧，佢就會指嘅多，佢就講未必會識得講佢想要嗰件物件嘅名嘅。咁所以佢相對地咧，佢會係比較敏陣。因為佢可能係表達唔到自己想要啲乜，一唔中意就可能會有瞓喺地下喊啊，可能會嗌啊。
喺卓卓應該大概2歲左右啦，佢有啲唔滿意嘅情況之下咧，就發脾氣發得好嚴重嘅，係咁揈手打架 BB 車咧，打到瘀晒咁樣。佢一好不滿情緒爆發嘅時候咧，係收拾唔到佢嘅。佢
其實有好多行為問題嘅，譬如話佢好容易發脾氣。佢要攞嘅嘢一定要攞到，如果攞唔到咧，佢就會癲咗噶啦，佢即刻揼地啊、喊啊，咁樣一定要攞到為止咁樣。
I hope you've enjoyed listening to the stories of these wonderful parents. Please stay tuned for next week. We'll have another exciting episode for you. Thank you for watching.